discussing? Seeing no one. Communications?
There is none.
Unfinished business?
There is none.
Petitions?
There is none.
New business ordinances? Resolutions?
There is
sorry.
none.
New business ordinances?
We have O-22-038. I'd like to make a motion, it's establishing fees for parking spaces utilized for extended outdoor dining. I'd like to make a motion to recommend final passage.
All those in favor say aye. No? Oh, wait, discussion on the motion, sorry. It's been a while. Alderman Tebow.
Yeah, I just want to recognize that we received an email today from San Francisco Kitchen that acknowledged that they were in favor of the $500 dining fee for a parking space. And I think he wanted to be here tonight, Mr. Gomez, but he was not able to be here. So he did send us an email. So I don't have a copy of it here, but we can always write to know it if we need to. But it's he's come here before supporting the barriers, and it's very helpful to his business. And he's one of the smaller businesses on Main Street as opposed to some of the bigger restaurants. So it's good to hear from the smaller businesses or smaller restaurants. And obviously I'm for this ordinance.
Alderman Clemens?
Thank you. I spoke to Matt Casey from Casey McGee's, and I also spoke to the gentleman who owns Raga. And they both are in support of the ordinance. They expressed to me that they would have liked 300, and I went back to them and I said, as we all would like a lower amount. I said, what you have to understand is that this is a compromise, because there are some people who want it to be $2,000 or $3,000 a space. So I said, we have to start somewhere. We want to make sure that this is a successful program. And when I explained those things to them, they understood. And I asked them, can I speak for both of you at this meeting? I said, yes, you can put it on record. We support the ordinance. So I just wanted to put that out there. And then just in general, when this process came about last year at the joint committee meeting, we made a commitment to the people of Nashua, and we made a commitment to the people in the business community that we would do it for free this past summer so that they could look at their books and make a decision whether or not it was worthwhile for them. That time has come and passed, and we're holding to our commitment to the rest of the city of Nashua, where we are going to defray some of the costs. Not all of the costs, but some of the costs at a reasonable price. And I think that is exactly what this ordinance does. It has the support of at least 3 restaurant owners that I know, and in the past I've talked to others who support it as well. So for me, I think this is just the right thing to do.
Thank you, Alderman Clemens. I'm just going to hit Alderman O'Brien first, Alderman Cleave.
Yep.
Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. From what I got, when we first started hearing this, and I agree with everything Alderman Clemens said, when we looked at the barriers, at that time the city was under a crisis, and I want the people to remember that. And that was the COVID type of thing, and the outdoor dining lent itself to a nice way that people still could support our businesses and to yet enjoy outdoor dining and eliminate any fear of contagion from the disease. I think we have done that. And I think this board deserves, if your arms are long enough, a pat on the back. I mean, look at Main Street. I don't see any boarded up storefronts or anything else. But as most of the things that we do hear from a certain segment. And there was people, constituents, that did identify that, well, they're getting the spots from nothing, And so what was attempted at first was a rescue effort. Now comes down to be quite successful. Many businesses have spoke in favor of this. Many constituents have spoken in favor. Those that wish to participate, participate. I don't go to the park every day, but I'm glad that there is a park. If you don't want to support it, that's your particular choice. So anyways, based upon that, and to satisfy everybody, we had to come up with a particular number, and it seems like this particular number is the correct number. It doesn't, I think, what Alderman Clemens, I totally agree. People do wish it was lower. Some wish that it was higher. But that doesn't mean that we're fixed on this particular number in perpetuity. The answer is no. We can come back, and future boards can come back and address this particular issue. But in other words, this is an indication, I mean, an example that we have listened to the constituency, the ones that complained that we were, giving away spaces for nothing. This is a modest attempt to try to rectify that. And I think one, that is not going to hurt the businesses, and yet to, and be able to keep the outdoor dining that we have gotten used to, and hopefully it continues to thrive. So I'm glad it's in this committee and off the infrastructure talk, and we did enough with the barriers, but I think I can support this 100%.
Great, thank you, Alderman. Alderman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of comments. I apologize, Alderman Thibault, but I do want to correct you. While the from does say Ruben Gomez, it was signed by Lena Gomez. So
Correct,
just for the
yep.
record, we can say that it was Mrs. Gomez that sent that information. And I want to add to what my colleagues have both said here. We started this under COVID. We had this crisis, and this was the best thing, and I commend Director Cummings and others who worked so hard to come up with this kind of a plan, and the committees, infrastructure and so on, that you all worked very hard to come up with a plan that worked, and there was a give and take and so on. For the public that's listening, we couldn't throw a dollar figure at them at the last minute because they didn't know what their budgets were and so on, and we weren't even making a decision. We had dragged our feet so long, and I don't know whether it was because they were waiting for another board or what our situation was, but we waited too long to hit them with this. So I think we did the right thing by not charging, and I think we're doing the right thing by charging. But one of the things that I want to make clear, ever since I've been on the board, we've talked, not necessarily we all here on this board, but I've heard conversations from different departments here about trying to calm Main Street. And one of the comments that have always been is to create single lanes in both directions. Sometimes we say we can't do it because we've got those islands in the middle and they were put in at high cost, they're not going to get removed and so on. But one of the things that this did was it afforded us the opportunity to see that we could make one lane on both sides work, including with emergency vehicles and everything. And maybe we weren't as successful the first time around, but we tweaked it and we made it even better and so on. And I think that that's kind of led that conversation of maybe we can calm Main Street a little bit by doing one way. We're talking about doing redirection in the behind Main Street, off the Parkway, the Veterans Parkway, and maybe change the direction of West Pearl. And so these conversations are happening, and they all kind of start from this. So from a seed of COVID, which was a crisis and a horrible thing, we're actually moving forward, I think, in a positive direction. And I think it's the way we need to go. I actually think we do need to change. I find it scary driving down Main Street with 2 lanes, even though we put up those signs where people have to push the button. Oftentimes what happens is people aren't going in the crosswalk. They're walking between cars late at night. And I'm not blaming the pedestrians other than they're not in the crosswalk, nor am I blaming the drivers, because what happens too often is that person in the left lane of that 2 lane, I stop and they don't know if I'm stopping because I'm double parking. Am I trying to pull into a parking space? I'm stopping because there's a person walking and they go around me and they're potentially going to hit that person. Yes, they should be going slow enough to do that, but dusk, dawn, people being a little bit too tipsy, walking out and so on. So I do think 1 lane is a safer way to go on Main Street. So when we're looking at that safety, and I think this brought us to a conversation of actually maybe doing something and moving forward. I know it's only during the summer that we're doing it, but I truly would love to see us go forward with a better plan for Main Street. And I think this is, and we're making money off of it, so.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Clemens.
Thank you. Now, I don't want to give the impression that I am speaking for her. However, I do want to say that one of the concerns from Alderman Karen too was that, that this doesn't go multi-year, that we do the 500 this year and we come back and reassess it. And this ordinance does do that. So it's only for this year. And next fall, we'll have to reassess and see, is the 500 the right number? Should it be lower? Should it be higher? You know, what were the successes? What wasn't a success last year? You know, where are we at, you know? And I think that was one of the main things that some of the other aldermen wanted to see as well. I just wanted that point brought up that this does address that particular issue.
Great, thank you. Alderman Tebow?
Thank you. I apologize to Lena Gomez. They're both wonderful people and fully supportive of them at San Francisco Kitchen. I'm guessing that some towns and cities, smaller cities in this country, didn't survive COVID and didn't have a plan like we did in the city to survive it, our downtown. And if you walk down it during the summer, it was unbelievable. And if you walk down it right now, it's beautiful. Even in the cold, you know, the lights, and it's an important part of the city. And it's a city without a big downtown like this, it becomes a town. And you know, I think what we've been doing has been good work. One thing I wanted to ask, if we could, Director Cummings, to just, through you, I want to ask him if, since we last discussed this, has any restaurants come forward saying what we've proposed they would not do? Like, no? No. Okay.
Director Cummings has, what restaurants have said this is an awesome plan?
No one, they want zero.
Sure, if I may, Mr. Chairman, for the record, Tim Cummings, Director of Economic Development, and technically Director of Administrative Services. Very early on in the process, I reached out to many of the restaurants, eateries, cafes, both the large and smaller shops. I do not want to represent that I got to all of them, but I did make a concerted effort to reach out to folks, not just along Main Street, but on the ancillary and side streets. And we had a frank and open conversation, very much like the one that Alderman Clements just represented, where it was a give and take, a back and forth. There was a feeling out of where it was that one was comfortable. And some of the larger shops, as you were expected, said, you know, we can go a little bit higher if we needed to. Some of the smaller shops and the ones on the side streets were like, you know, keep it in the back of the mind that, you know, we don't get as much foot traffic and we're on a side street and we're smaller. Ultimately, it did seem to resonate that $500 was a good price point to start at, and they all recognized that you had to start somewhere, and they welcomed an ongoing conversation. And if it went up as years went on, so long as it was an open, transparent process, and they felt like they were part of the process, they wouldn't necessarily be opposed to it. But they recognized that, and particularly as the Director of Economic Development, I needed a place to jump off from. And I represented to them the data and the research I did about what other communities in the area were doing, what I thought was reasonable. And so to bring this conversation full circle, the restaurants all kind of indicated that $500 was a reasonable, that was close. $500 was a reasonable fee to set.
Great,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
Great. Any other statements or questions? I just have one statement that you know, I think we all did do a good job in putting together the plan for outdoor dining last summer. And this summer we'll have the Nashua Center for the Arts with outdoor dining in place. I can't wait to see how the city's gonna look during that time period with the shows and people out to dinner right before they go to the show and vice versa, right after for drinks. All right, so then I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, the ayes have it. All right, tabled in committee.
There's none.
General discussion? Alderman Clemens.
So, yeah, I wanted to just bring up, and I didn't want to do it in the last discussion because it wasn't relevant to the legislation, and I didn't want to make an amendment, but I do want to put on the record that it's been mentioned by some aldermen here that we should charge for the sidewalk space as well. And I want to put on the record that I am completely against that. And I am against that because historically, this city has never charged for that. There may have been a time when we charged $15 a table at the very, very beginning of when all of this was, but that is no longer the case anymore. And so, the idea that we would throw an additional tax onto a business that, for something that they've always had, and when I say always had, since the mid-90s, always had, I think is the wrong approach, and you won't see legislation from me doing that. I don't think that we should be taxing our businesses any more than is necessary. And it is necessary for the barriers because there's a cost to put them out.
Thank you. Alderman Tebow?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, just to go off of that, I would not support legislation for that, nor would I create legislation for that. I agree. I mean, there's got to be, there's no cost that we're trying to make up there for the sidewalk space, so I wouldn't agree to that either, so.
Any other? Great. Let's see. Public comment. Anyone else want to comment if you're here? Seeing none. Remarks by Alderman. Alderman Tebow.
Thank you. Again, I said this last week in the meeting, but I just want to wish everybody a happy holidays and, Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah, which is going on right now at night 3. And, like I said last week, holidays aren't always, happy times for everyone. Every family, every person, they're going, they could be going through stuff that we don't know about. And so, while some may be celebrating, some may not be. And, life doesn't discriminate against people who are Republican or Democrat or white or minority or women or men. It doesn't discriminate. So it's important that we know that there's people out there that need help during the holiday season as it gets colder. And unfortunately, there's a lot of homeless people. And I hope that people are thinking about all of them and all about people who need our help during this time. Alderman Moran will tell you mental health is people get stressed during the holidays and there's a lot to do. And I'm just wishing everybody a happy and healthy end of the year.
Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too would like to wish everybody in the city the best of the holiday season. And if I'm correct, help me out here, folks, but does Alderman Lopez have something coming up?
Yes.
The longest night,
The
that
longest
is
night,
part
tomorrow
of
night at
his
6.
persona, his annual event, so.
Tomorrow
if-
night, 6 o'clock.
It's tomorrow night, what time, Alderman
6
Craig?
PM.
Right,
I was gonna
right
mention
here.
that.
Right
Yeah,
in front of
6
City
p.m.
Hall.
Then I'll yield to you on that. But it's something that if people want to come down and support, it makes you think, particularly in this holiday season, the less fortunate. On a happier note, about 39 years ago, a couple hours ago, I was blessed with a son. So I would like to wish my son, Lieutenant Michael Bernard O'Brien Jr., a happy birthday. He is spending his birthday, as all good firemen do, in the station, so please be kind to him, folks, tonight, But I wish him all the best of the birthday season. He almost made it to be a Christmas kid, so. His mother was a Christmas kid, so. So there you go. Thank you.
Happy birthday to him.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too want to wish everybody a happy holiday. And I can't make tomorrow's longest night, but it is something extremely important to be at. It is a beautiful ceremony that Alderman Lopez works with a number of organizations, and they read out those that have been lost through the darkness, through homelessness, and so on. It's important that those names get recognized and that they don't just disappear. Some have families, some don't. So I think it is important. There will be candles that will be given out, but I ask everybody, if you have any, bring your own battery-operated candle. The wind will blow out any candles, so bring a battery-operated one, but there will be some that will be there. I believe that they're going to sing Silent Night, and the second verse, which is Night of Silence, I believe is going to be sung too, so you might want to look that up. It is a really beautiful thing. thing. I know it brings me to tears each year, and I'm sad that I can't be there. But it is 6 p.m. tomorrow night at the steps of City Hall. And the reason they call it the longest night is it's the first day of winter, but it is the longest night of the year, which is the hardest night for those that are sleeping outside. I also want to say, about 3 weeks ago, I started doing something that I kind of saw on Facebook, and I call it my smile program. When someone cuts me off, I just smile and thank them. When someone doesn't hold the door for me or lets it slam in my face, I smile and say thank you. And I also just, people I see, I smile and say hello to. And I've seen people that have walked up to me very grumpy, and when I say, hi, or good morning, they smile. They probably think I've lost my nut here, but it does, it makes them smile. And so between now and Christmas, give a little extra smile to someone. And as has been pointed out here, we don't know what someone's day has been. And it made me feel so much better. I even said to my husband, I'm finding that I'm smiling more, and not just at people, but I'm actually happier by doing it. And it may sound silly, but it works. So, make it a little point to smile a little harder, at least now until maybe the end of the year. Then you can get grumpy again for a while. But thank you.
Great. I too would like to, I'm sorry, Alderman Clemmons.
I just want to wish everybody a happy holiday and Merry Christmas.
I too would like to do that. Merry Christmas to everyone. Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, any holiday that you celebrate, winter solstice, whatever. Everyone has the opportunity to enjoy the days that they celebrate and how they celebrate it. A very Merry Christmas to my wife. This is the first Christmas without her dad, and she's generally the glue that holds our entire family together. So I'm very thankful for her and being present and still, taking care of me in a very difficult time in our lives, but definitely in her life. Also, the longest night, I'm going to make best effort to be there. I have finance at 7, so I'm going to try to get there at 6, because it's important to me, because again, my wife and I have been homeless, and within the last decades, not too long ago. So I definitely appreciate when we're trying to bring awareness to something that's so dear to me. And again, mental health during this time of year is extremely important. Call up 211. You can call the National Suicide Hotline. You can call anyone, the crisis team here in Nashua. Go to Greater Nashua Mental Health. You can walk in Monday through Friday just to talk. It doesn't hurt to talk. You don't need to set up ongoing appointments. You can just sit down and talk to someone. Whatever's going to help you get through the seasonal depression, the Christmas depression, whatever the depression might be that's impacting you. And I'm so happy that this board is so open to talking about such difficult things that impact our city. And I appreciate that. All right. Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make the motion that the Planning and Economic Development Committee meeting of 12/20/22 be adjourned.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, we are adjourned at 7:24.